And the umbrella made me think of it. Is this thing going? Okay, the umbrella made me think of it. So I'm driving along and there's this place where they have the outdoor cafe. And it's got those big umbrellas, you know, they're at the tables. And so I'm driving along, driving the trolley, and I see one of those umbrellas just lift off the table and come over and fly on the other side of the fence, you know. So I stop there and toot the horn, you know, and the girl inside's looking out the window like, you know, what's going on? And I'm pointing to the umbrella, you know, and she sees that it's on the outside of the fence then. And so she comes out, starts walking over towards that umbrella. The wind catches it again, picks it up, takes it back on her side of the fence, and she just takes it and sticks it in the thing and closes it down. But it was so funny. She would blow over the fence and then back over the fence. Yeah.
So have you seen some pretty interesting things driving the bus?
No, not really.
Not really?
That's one of the funniest ones.
Okay, now tell us about teaching Lauren how to drive the parking lot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Lauren. What is that? Grandpa's cave?
So we're interviewing David Reed. We've got Madison shooting BB guns in the background.
Oh yeah, we're not getting that old chunky house in the background, are we? For sure.
I could think of bullets in here.
Okay, so we were talking about Lauren and teaching Lauren how to drive.
Yeah, okay, we started out and we left Lauren's house and she didn't want to drive on the street, so we went over to Coke Industries into the parking lot and we practiced her going in and out of the parking lot and into and out of the parking space and then just driving through the driving area just as if that was the street or something. So we practiced that for a while. And she said she didn't want to go out on the street though, she wasn't ready for that. So after we practiced, she was doing perfect and having no trouble at all. And there was the arrows painted on the road, and I told her, well, let's just follow these arrows, you know, just like this is the highway, you know, pretend like it's the highway, we'll follow these arrows, yeah. And so as we're following the arrows out, she goes, Dad, this is going out on the street. And I'm like, well, it's too late now. We just had to go on it, so we went on there. But we'd drive up and down to Newton and go to Bethany College there, you know. So we'd drive on Old Broadway Highway, which is a 4-lane highway that nobody ever uses. Nice highway, perfect for learning. And then we'd go to that Bethany College, and their administration building's a real old building, and it has a fire escape on the outside. Okay, so we'd go to Bethany College when we were teaching the kids to drive because it was just a nice highway to go up and down, that old Broadway highway. But this old administration there at Bethany College has an outdoor fire escape that's like 4 stories high. And it's a rickety old fire escape outside. And so we'd go up and we'd try different things. Chris had found a tennis ball or something and we dropped it to see how far it'd bounce and things like this. We'd always make it a point to go up to the top of that. Well, it had fire escapes on both ends, and we'd never gone to the other end. We went to the other end, and there was a half-dome doorway that was about, you know, about Hobbit size. It was like half a door, and we tried it, and it was open. And so we got to look inside there. And it was just kind of exciting to look inside there. The kids are all, you know, and there's old classrooms or something, you know.
You know what? So teaching me how to drive.
Let's see, when I taught Angela how to drive, I think we started out with the dune buggy, right?
I think so. Mm-hmm.
And you'd just drive it up and down the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you drove?
Mm-hmm. I think we drove out on the street sometimes too.
Well, yeah, it was street legal. We probably did drive on the road. But I think I used to just tell you to just go do it. Didn't I? And you'd just drive up and down, and I'd hear you running up and down the field. I just remember hearing the dune buggy going down the field, and that was you driving it. I think the very first driving you did, though, was when we were working at the church farm,
Oh,
the
that's
welfare farm, and we were moving those trees because they'd bulldozed over those trees, and so we were putting them into piles and then burning them. And so I'd get out there with the chain, and you'd drive the tractor, and I'd loop the chain around the branches, and you'd drag it over there, and then I'd unchain the trees, and we'd stack them into big old piles, and then we'd burn that thing. So really, that's where you started first, I think, was driving that tractor.
No wonder
Then
I
it
like
was
tractors so much.
Then it was the dune buggy. Driving the dune buggy downhill. Then I didn't know what car you drove next. I can't.
I remember driving Grandma and Grandpa's car backwards and forwards down the driveway too.
Yeah, that's what I did when I first got my license. It was up and down the driveway, up and down the driveway.
So fun.
And then your first car was that Carmen Ghia, right? That green Carmen Ghia.
Yeah.
With all the rusted out floorboards and no heater.
And I loved it.
And,
It's wonderful. Just like Lauren loves her rabbit. I'm so
She does.
excited about it.
it is the same way though. She's got a defroster, but no heat comes out the floor for some reason. We can't figure out what's wrong.
Okay, well, one of the questions was, what's one of your favorite childhood memories?
One thing I can remember is in that field right across the tree line there was a no, you couldn't see it now, but the guy had a wheat field, and I remember going out with Mom, and we laid down between the rows of wheat and watched all the bugs go, you know, and talked about being real small and, you know, being like these little bugs and things, you know, just how fun it'd be to be that size. And I could, you know, I could drive my toy airplanes, you know, I could really fly them because I'd be so small. So I remember doing that. Man, mostly what I did when I was little was rode bicycles. There wasn't too much else to do around here, you know. So riding bicycles. Yeah, I remember I had an Allied van lines truck, and articulated, you know, on the semi-truck, you know, little toy one. That, you know how when you're a kid you just forget about toys for a while, and then man, I went back to it and found it again, and man, I mean, oh, this is cool, you know. Open up the back doors, and man, here's this Black Widow, just the red hourglass thing, just plain as day. Man, I really freaked out because I'd heard, you know, Black Widows will kill you, you know. And I think they were building the septic tank at the time, and I think I threw it in there to drown, you know, because it rained, to drown the Black Widow, and then it sank down in the mud or something, and I never had it anymore, so. Anyway, it taught me.
Well, what about your brothers and sisters? Like, did you have one that you got along with better than another? Or that you
One thing I can remember for sure is when I was little tiny and we had an outhouse, and Uncle John had put me on his shoulders and we'd run out to the outhouse. So, yeah, I can remember that. That's probably one of the earliest memories, you know, because
How old do you think you were?
2, 3, something like that, you know, real young. You know.
You just ran out there. You'd be freezing cold or something, or just...
I don't remember, you know, I don't remember it being so cold. I just remember him putting me, you know, on his shoulders. He'd go out there. I don't know if he's just doing it for me or just going or what.
How far was the outhouse?
Well, it's probably 100 yards or something, maybe 200 yards. I don't know. Probably a football field, maybe.
So what other fun
Yeah,
things would you
Tessie.
do with your, well, other things would you do with your brothers and sisters? Any other fun
Gosh,
things?
not very much. That's mostly just me.
Yeah.
Do my thing, and everybody else to do their own.
So did you have any friends that lived close by? Or?
My nearest neighbor was half a mile away, and so, not really until, let's see, I remember a girl moved down to that house on the hill, and after school we'd go play Army or Cowboys and Indians or something, you know, out in the horse lot, you know. It was so funny.
So what did you like about living out on the farm?
I
Or
don't know.
dislike about it?
Well, yeah, to a certain extent, I didn't because there was nothing to do. I mean, there were things to do, but it was just kind of, you had to do your own thing. Like all this wasn't out here. There was no pond. Very few trees. Just open field. It's just nothing. There was the hedgerow, but man, that was half a mile away. You don't go down there just for kicks, So really, there's a lot I missed out on. There was one culvert down the street here. It was just a little ways down. I used to love to get firecrackers and put a rock in the bottom of a piece of tin foil and put that firecracker in so it had the fuse sticking out through the tin foil. I'd light it and drop it in the water, and it'd go into the water and explode, and you'd see the bubble come up like depth charges in the submarine movies,
Okay, what was one of your fondest memories of your mom?
I'd have to say the deal when we laid down in the grass there. I can't even think of how old I was, but I was not very old.
What about with your dad?
Trying to think.
Oh, I never got warm.
Well, I remember going to work with him. I like doing that.
At Reed and Fugate? What did you like about going down there?
Oh, I guess just being where he worked. Him too, I'd always get a pop, Of course, it's always 7-Up, and then you'd burp and it'd make your nose tingle.
You like that?
But that was fun. Well, until it was a real old building, so it had like an old upstairs. Oh.
Maddie, just pick him up, Cindy. Okay, so what kind of car did you guys have when you were here? Car or cars?
The first car I remember Grandpa having, or my dad and Mom having, was a '50 Ford four-door sedan. And I remember that I could get up and sit on that ledge in the back window and just lay down there and take a nap or whatever I wanted to do, That's the first car. Then when I started driving, we had a '55 Pontiac, which it was a hot rod. That's a wonder I survived.
Did you go?
But I know when I first got my permit, I used to go to Udall to pick up Gary because he'd go to work in Udall. And I guess they'd take him in the morning, and then I guess after school I must have gone and picked him up. Because I remember driving that '55 Pontiac out to Udall all the time, which is probably 30, 40 miles or something one way.
So it was pretty fast? Is that what you're saying? Funny.
Yeah, it's pretty fast. Yeah, it's a pretty neat car.
So what kind of chores did you do when you were a kid?
I was trash.
Trash?
I was the trash man. Yeah, because Gary and Jerry do most of the farm work, like milking the cow and stuff like that.
So you guys did have a cow?
Mhm.
What other animals did you have?
Well, generally we had pigs.
Somebody do this gun for me.
Don't point it
I
at
bet
us.
Chris would.
Maybe you can share with Maddie and use that.
What other animals did you have on the farm?
Generally there were horses. Gary always loved horses. It seems like he always had a horse. I think we had one as a family horse, but Gary always had horses. I remember he had this one horse that was the colt of a mother horse that he had, and the colt was real tall and the mother was real short, and I'd ride the mother, and he'd ride Diamond, this big old colt, colt, or just male horse. And And I remember the mother was just so much faster than Diamond that I could just really just leave her in the dust. But that was kind of fun to do that. I didn't really ride that much. I remember riding that horse, but I don't remember ever riding any other horses.
So any fond memories of when you were going to church or scouts or young men?
Oh, I don't know. Going to church was always so long. The building was so neat that we went to church in. It was the East and West Branch, and it had an outdoor balcony. It had these stairs that went up the outside of the building, up to this outside balcony. So really, to enter the main part of the church, you'd be upstairs, up these stairs, and then you could look over that balcony, and it was neat. But inside, it was an old building. It had above the main chapel portion, it had like another balcony that went around. It was at the back of the building, and then it went around the sides. And went to, I think it's flipping off, isn't it? And then it'd go into two classrooms that were back, which would have been just either side of the podium back there. But I know the balconies down the sides just sort of sloped like this, they were not real solid.
Nice.
But,
What about, did you have scouts? Did you do scouts?
Yeah, we did, but I didn't do that much. I mean, we were out at the farm, and we never did anything hardly. I mean, I remember a few campouts and things, but not like Chris and them having now. We were just too far away.
What about young men? Did you never do anything fun?
They didn't have anything like that.
I didn't. Okay, who did you look up to when you were young? Who did you think you wanted to be like when you were younger?
Hopalong Cassidy, who knows? No, I remember, I guess, TV shows, the Cowboys. But there was Paladin, because his calling card was the chess piece the night. And then Hopalong Cassidy, because he had the two, black outfit and two pearl-handled revolvers, white-handled revolvers. So,
Well, I know Grandpa likes to read Westerns still. Do you like to read Westerns? Or
No.
not too much?
I do remember, I used to just read and read and read. I'd read the dictionary, I'd read the encyclopedias. I remember in 3rd or 4th grade, we were kind of in a building by ourselves that grade, and we had our own library, and we had all these like Indian stories, I mean, I must have read, I must have read 500 of those books or something. I can't remember anything about any of them anymore, but
Love it. Love to read.
did a lot of reading.
That's great. Did you get good grades at school?
Oh yeah, but I didn't work at it.
Didn't try too hard. Did you ever get in trouble at school?
Oh yeah, I would. Well, what I remember most is I'd have to write, "I will be nice," and I remember one time that 2 other guys and I got in trouble for something, and they had to write, "I will be nice" 500 times. I had to write, "I will be nice" 1,000 times. I was done long before they were, and I didn't know what the situation was. One thing I do remember that you might keep in mind is, I remember in 2nd grade they gave us these little tin rulers, and if you went like this, it'd make this funky sound, because it'd bend and come back, so it made some kind of a weird sound. And the teacher says, "I don't want anybody to do that again, or I'm taking away those rulers," And so we're going on to something else. This is like first day of school or something like this, And she says something else, and I clap my hands. And she goes, I told you not to do that anymore, and took away my ruler. It's like, of course, I was just a shy little kid, so I didn't say anything.
Is there anything that you remember about your baptism?
Well, I remember that we didn't have a baptismal font here in Wichita, and so we had to go to Hutchinson to get baptized because they had a baptismal font there, and they had the baptismal font like up on a stage, you know, just not a very high stage, but the floor of the stage would separate, and then the baptismal font was just right there under that stage. That's where I was baptized.
Interesting.
So this is gonna work. All you're gonna hear is that dog barking.
I think I could hear it, so I think we're okay. And then, do you remember when you received the priesthood?
Better pause. I'm trying to think.
So what made you decide to go to BYU for college?
I didn't really. Mom and Dad did.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Because I always wanted to go to University of Utah. I thought that was cool. 'Cause that's where you were, and that's where John was. And
Oh, and what, they convinced it? Sorry.
well,
So-
no, it was just
So Violet and John both
That
went there?
fly's going in
University of
the
Utah.
pizza.
So what did you
Fly's
do at
going in the
BYU?
pizza.
didn't study.
Didn't study. So what happened? What was going on at BYU? Tell about that one story you were telling me about.
Which one?
The one about the friend that you had. And
You know, don't record this.
Oh.
part.
that happened at BYU.
Well, okay. Well, yeah, I had a friend that was not a good friend, and so we didn't do schoolwork or anything. We'd go out and play, go hunting or other things. And he wasn't really a true friend, I don't think. You know, I think he was more.
But so what happened at the school about your hair?
Well, I remember going back after a summer, and I had long hair, and just, you know, I never even thought anything about it. And I checked into the dorm and go into the cafeteria to eat lunch or whatever, you know. And some old lady comes over and, what are you doing in here with long hair? You can't be in here. And I'm like, what do you mean? That's where I eat. You know? Well, how'd you get checked in? You shouldn't even be checked in with long hair like that. You know? He was going nuts about my long hair.
And then what happened?
I don't know. Just not. Probably not that long.
The times long hair.
But then what happened? And you just left?
I don't know. I probably went and got a haircut or something. I don't know.
I thought you said you left after that. Your
I'm
friend-
not immediately after that. Yeah, just, you know, I was with some my roommate that year was a real goody two-shoes type guy, but he wasn't really, you know, he was real good on Sunday, and, you know, and you know, I was naive. I grew up on a farm, you know, I expected, well, all these good people are going to be
That was
good.
part of the problem is going from this little Rose Hill school to big, huge. I know that was my problem. I mean, I was just out to have a good time, to do all the things, you know, have all the fun that I didn't have.
Violet
School.
went to have a good time? What? I can't even believe this.
I really
What am I hearing?
I didn't know how to go to classes that had 300 kids in it. Yeah, it was just too big a school. Sorry to interrupt your.
Yeah, there was, yeah, a lot of
Wasn't
that,
prepared.
and then you know, BYU, you just expected everybody to be, you know, good, and they weren't, you know, and it's like, well, that's weird, you know, because, you know, I was just acting like me. I never pretended like I was perfect on Sunday, and I wasn't perfect the rest of the time too. And these guys were all like, we're perfect on Sunday, and they're just like me on the rest of the week, you know.
So
It was so
people-
weird, you know.
So was it the people that made you not want to go there anymore? They were being like that then? You're kind of like,
Kinda, yeah.
Well, you said you didn't want to go to Starville.
Yeah, I really wasn't that enthused about it to start with.
So what did you do after BYU? After you went out?
Then I went to Sue's, I think. And we went down and worked in Las Vegas for 6 months or something.
Came over to visit us. When was that? After
Yeah.
school, before school? Was that before college?
I don't remember.
He came over to England. I remember the little neighbor boy coming over and saying, "Is your brother a hippie?" Because his hair was like.
Okay, so this must have been after BYU then.
Probably
You came
so.
over.
Oh yeah, it was because I went with Julian to Chicago, the Chinese guy, to Chicago, and got a job in a deli, some Jewish deli. That was weird. They go, one lady goes, "Are you Jewish?" And I go, "I don't know. How do you tell?" You know, and she just looked at me like, you know, well, I don't know. You know, I mean, it's like, are you German or you know, are you have any Italian ancestors or something like that? And I'm, hey, I don't know. You know.
So how did you end up back in Salt Lake?
Let's see. Oh, I had that old BMW, that 52 BMW, and some lady needed to go. She was moving to Scottsdale, Arizona. She needed somebody to help her drive. And so she rented a trailer so she could pull that behind her vehicle and take my motorcycle out to Scottsdale if I'd help her drive. And then I went up, you know, then after we got her there, and then I went up to Las Vegas and visited Sue and Bruce. And this was like probably February, or, no, must have been March or something. Must have been March. And the weather was so nice there, you know. I stayed with Suze a while, you know, and I must have stayed quite a while because then about April, I said, well, I'm going to go on up to Salt Lake and see John, you know. And I remember Bruce saying, I don't know, it's still kind of early in the season to be going through those mountains, you know, because you never know what will happen. And I'm like, you know, we're kind of shooting in Las Vegas. It's like in the 80s every day, you know, and you know, it'll be okay. I had this old Army coverall thing, you know, and all this heavy-duty equipment, you know. And I thought, you know, I can ride in the cold. It doesn't bother me, you know. So I left Las Vegas and went up, and I was going through Zion's Canyon, and Zion's has that big long tunnel. It's 1.5 miles long, you know. Everything was great, you know. Right along, the weather's fine, you know. I go through that tunnel, come out the other side, this big blizzard blowing, you know. I'm like, you know, where'd this come from, you know? Because all I did was go through a tunnel, you know. And so I'm heading up towards Bryce Canyon then, you know, and I mean, oh man, it was getting cold, and my hands would get so cold that I'd have to get off the motorcycle, just leave it running, and put my hands over the exhaust pipes, you know, just almost grab them to warm my hands up, you know. And I was just getting colder and colder. Well, I had no money. I had like $7, and Mom and Daddy give me a Texaco credit card, you know. And so that's why I was traveling. I was at $7 in the Texaco credit card. And I come to some little town, and I stopped in at the motel and asked her if they'd take this credit card. She goes, no, we don't have any way to take a credit card. And she says, well, you look just too cold. You've got to stay in this room. I go, I only got $7, you know. She says, well, we can just stay in the room, you know. So she let me stay in one of her motel rooms just free that night. I mean, man, I shivered for hours, you know. I just, you know, because I was so cold. I just was in that room just shivering and shivering, you know.
Where was this at?
That's it. Huh?
Where was this at?
Someplace between Bryce Canyon and Zion's Canyon. Someplace between those two. But she let me stay, and so when I left the next day, I slipped $2 in the drawer, you know. So it was